Going on, guys? Happy New Year, welcome to 2019. We're going to kick off the new year with a review, and today we're going to take a look at the Maxace Banshee. Now the Banshee is actually pretty great. It takes design elements from the Covenant, the Pelican, and the DMG, and it brings them together in an offering that's unique unto its own. It's got its own design, its own characteristics. This guy came in at $150 total for the knife itself. Runs on Teflon cage bearings, it's got Zen pins, sandwich style design, and believe it or not, this is actually the first Bally I'm reviewing on my channel that's a trainer. I typically don't do trainers, but I actually bought this specifically to have set up as a trainer. The blade on this guy is 14C28N, G10 scales over, I guess it's a Thai nitride coating, but they're 420 stainless steel liners. 10.15 inches overall. It's got a 4.2 inch blade, 5.6 inch handles. Now the stock weight on this guy with the stock spacers and a clip and latch installed is 5.46 ounces. But on mine, I've obviously got no clip and no latch on here, and I did get the aluminum spacers, and with those it's 4.8 ounces. But if you wanted to run this with no clip and no latch and had the stock steel spacers, it'd be 5.15 ounces. Although unlike a lot of prior offerings from Maxace that came with an extra hardware pack, for the Banshee, if you wanted the extra hardware, you had to buy it separately for $15. Along with the aluminum spacers, those were also $15 for a pair. Now, even though the Banshee is a great Bally, especially for the price, and I'd even recommend it for pro flippers to try out among beginners, especially for beginners because it's definitely not breaking the bank, there is just a few very small things I'd change about it if I could, but I'm going to get to those towards the end of the video. Now, even though I'm running mine specifically as a trainer, I still brought out the live blade so you guys could check it out. And one cool thing about the Banshee is that they made a specific point to make sure that the trainer blade and both the live blade were identical in weight. And when you compare that to the Pelican, which was the first time they tried out that tuning fork design, which I will add that they perfected with the Banshee, but that trainer blade was just so heavy on the Pelican, it was a brick, it was almost unusable. Compare that to the Banshee, which is not the case. It's identical in weight and you can't tell any difference in flipping. Now the fit and finish on the Banshee is actually pretty damn good, especially when you factor in the price. The milling in the scales is clean, the stonewash finish on the blades is even and consistent, it's got nearly zero play, smooth free swing, the bearings feel really smooth, and I'll tell you that they felt that way, like when I tuned it right out of the box, they felt that way. It didn't require any like break-in period for the bearings to feel this smooth. They were like that out of the box. Unlike some of my other Maxace Ballys I've gotten, out of the box they felt a little rough, but then they smoothed out over time. This wasn't like that. They felt this smooth out of the box. The Banshee is actually a pretty great flipper. The bearings are nice and smooth, it's got nearly zero handle play, it's well balanced, although at least with the aluminum spacers. For my preference with the stock steel spacers, it was way too handle biased. I would definitely recommend getting a set of the aluminum spacers with it. The balance is just much better. It'll have just a slight bit of handle bias with the aluminum spacers. Now on both the live blade and the trainer blade, the spines are chamfered, not crowned, and I don't really get any pinches from the tang at all. It's pretty low profile. Although along the edges on the corners of the scales, they can feel a little bit rough at times. And one other thing I like is this sloped in portion towards the top of the handles where it gets thinner. That's a design element that they pulled from the Pelican, and I just like that. It makes it nice and comfy for twirls and chaps. Overall, it's not too bad. Now the only couple things I would even change about this Bally if I could is really just me nitpicking, but I would prefer that there were sex bolts or like double-sided barrels in the spacers and in the handles here instead of having the screws directly threaded and tapped into the spacers, especially using aluminum spacers. It's not the toughest material and I just don't like having the screws directly tapped into the material. Another thing is where this sloped in chamfer here is. There's a nice deep chamfer that's on the rest of the handle, but it doesn't follow into this sloped in portion here. It's just a sharp corner, so it can make that area of the handles feel really blocky and the corners pretty sharp. So I just wish that chamfer followed in through here. And the only other thing I would change is I wish they went with hidden Zen pins. They work just fine on the DMG, and just like with my Covenant, I need to set them with a tiny dab of blue Loctite, otherwise they'll back out. And if I crank them down tight all the way, the handles won't swing free, so you have to have them set with a tiny dab of blue Loctite. Now, those aren't that big a deal even when you combine them together, and definitely shouldn't stop you from buying this Bali. I would definitely recommend it, because especially for the price, it's a killer flipper. Now the fit and finish is great, the tolerances are great, the price is great. There isn't really any major real reasons that should stop you from buying this if you like to design. The few things that I mentioned are just nitpicks, but otherwise I hope you guys like this review. Stay tuned because I got a lot of great things coming for the rest of 2019. Like this video, subscribe, share it. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys next time.